Hello and welcome to another episode of Close Mode, the Enterprise Sales Show. I'm Brian Dietmeyer, CEO of Close Strong, the home of precision guided selling. Today, I'm really lucky to be here with Robin Schweitzer. And Robin is a marketing and sales enablement leader. She's done stints at CallSource and Patronics. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
So I was intrigued when we first met on your LinkedIn profile. You talked about uniting marketing, RevOps, and enablement into one operating system, which immediately kind of made some sense to me. So can you give us a high level idea about how you did that?
Sure. I have this theory that a lot of companies look at functions, by function, the marketing function, the sales enablement function, the CS function. And we really need to start talking about a system, right? It's like a revenue system, really is a revenue system, having each of those
Yes.
departments.
Yeah.
And if we treat it more like a system where, and I also think of it like a relay race, each department is a runner in this race for excellence in customer engagement and
Yeah.
or product delivery. And when you start looking at it from that perspective, that means there's got to be less friction. You have to have KPI alignment. You have to have the stages that everybody participates in lined up and outlined. So some of the things that I did early was sit in each department to understand what it is they are, what's their KPI?
Mm.
What are they doing, right? What did they have to do? And by just starting to understand those things was like the first foundational piece that I did. So I was aware of what their mantra was for their function and what was the mantra function for sales so we could be aligned and
Yeah.
start mapping to that. You know,
It's it's interesting, Robin. What you make me think of is I think I may have wrote about this a couple of years ago, but I've also done some procurement consulting in my life. Sorry, salespeople, but I have consulted to the dark side. And as part of that work, I ended up doing some research into like procurement made this transition from procurement to supply chain management. And the whole notion of supply chain management, it was in the 80s. I think it was Booz Hamilton who started it, but they were trying to unify the various touch points of the supply chain, right? Which made total sense. And so what you just said, I started calling it revenue chain management. When you talk about the system, like
yeah,
how do you unify all the different people touching the revenue chain for new, for renewals, all the way through? Yeah.
it's a system, and you have to have that relay race from lead generation to reinforcement and retention. It's this constant cycle, and the smoother it is, the less friction you have, the more alignment of goals that you have. It's not, what I say is revenue doesn't happen in departments; it happens in a system.
Yeah, I agree. So what were a couple kind of high level obstacles you ran into in trying to unify this system?
Yeah, I will tell you that I ran into this across my career, and I think it still goes on today. And it's KPI misalignment. And what do I say by it? Let me give you a live example. At one point, I was at a company where sales were down, and I was still on the enablement side, and it was their directive was sell at all costs.
Yes.
We have to get revenue in the door, and we're going to do it. And because of the efficiencies, operations was told no late orders anymore. We're not allowing any late orders. Well, in came one of the largest orders that I've ever been part of, $5 million, and operations says, yeah, we're not going to take it because it's late. But
Yeah.
yet the KPI for sales was sell at all costs. So now what you had was this internal fight and conflict because they're doing and operations was doing what their mantra was, which was no late orders, right? Sales was doing their mantra. And when I broke it down, I went to a VP meeting and said, let me show you how the KPIs are misaligned in our buying cycle right now.
Yeah.
And that example, I was brave enough to take it to the VP suite because you got really great people doing really great work aligned to what you want them aligned to. And if you
Yeah.
misalign that at the top, it causes all kinds of chaos within the system.
Yep. And before you and I are going to transition into sort of more tactical conversation and follow up to how we started talking a couple of weeks ago, but what can you point to a couple sort of key outcomes from this work? What were the results of kind of unifying these systems?
Yeah, a couple of things. Certainly, I'm going to think of the things that are most important in buckets. So, qualified pipeline. There's pipeline and there's qualified pipeline, right? It's a very different definition. You can get pipeline all day long if it's not qualified pipeline or not the right pipeline. But just getting everybody in line, a qualified pipeline, which then leads to better forecast confidence. And then that leads to deals that are going to close faster, which then leads to salespeople being working on opportunities that are energizing and close, and then it increases win rates. It's like a no-brainer when you step outside of it, but when there's volume
Yeah.
coming at 100 miles an hour, you have to remind yourself of those things, that not every deal that comes to you is going to close right away. That doesn't mean no. It means, is it the right thing to work on right now?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think qualified pipeline, better forecasting, win rates, and really, I think better energy for salespeople to be confident and have energy to go do the next deal.
I mean, the thing I love about those results is those are pretty much the usual suspects of things that people struggle with. So if unifying these systems gets you there. All right. So as you and I were just chatting a couple of weeks ago, we were kind of one of the things I like to do on this show too is get to like some really tactical, usable stuff. And we started having a conversation about the evolution of enablement given market shifts, right? We're buying and selling in a different world today, especially post-COVID. And one of the areas we spoke about, which is of great interest to me, is sales methodology. And I know you have experience with value selling, MedPick, et cetera. And how would you say the traditional rollout of methodologies is out of step with the reality of where people are selling today?
Yeah, let me start with sales methodology because that word gets people freaked out in business, and especially on the sales side. What sales methodology isn't, it isn't teaching you how to sell.
Hmm.
Most sales methodology should be, or done correctly, is a decision making framework. It's about how you assess everything that's coming at you, like I said earlier. It's opportunity readiness, it's teaching discovery. I'll use the word of consultative discovery, confirming ICP, ultimately improving the energy that and the time that sales are doing with the deals that they're working on.
Yeah.
So it's more of a framework than it is. A lot of times when reps see methodology coming down the pike, like, oh my God, here we go. Like, think, you know what, this is flavor of the month. But real methodology is really about deal readiness and energy spent and
Yeah.
reframing all the stuff that's coming at you as a salesperson. That's the first thing I want to say about sales methodology. To your question about what's out of step, it's like it's one and done, right? We roll it out and everybody's rah rah. And you know what? I see a spike in participation in the first 30, 45 days. And then, right, everybody's clapping and high fiving. But 60 days later, it's right back where it was because
Yeah.
there isn't a continuity of reinforcement. There isn't an alignment with leadership taking that baton from enablement and making sure that that's reinforced in one-on-ones, reinforced in forecasted meetings, reinforced across behavior.
You know,
So
yeah, I'm sorry, Robin. I have to say to you, it's like what you just said. I fundamentally agree with, and it's sort of like the emperor has no clothes thing. Like
yes.
this is, I think of methodology training as a lever that we have to pull as leaders. One option we have to pull as leaders, and we
Mm-hmm.
pull this lever a lot. And I had a sales leader say to me once, the great thing about sales training is if people take one or two things away from it, it's worth it. And my argument at the time, I was in the sales training business. Yeah, just like you just did, you shook your head. I just said, no, are you kidding? Like you spent, you have 100 people in your sales team. You spent maybe 100, 150 grand rolling this thing out. Plus,
Yeah,
you had 200 people days out of market, not selling, and you're
yeah,
saying if
yeah,
they take one or two things away, it's worth it. It's sort of like the bar is so low, and everybody's kind of accepted. You know, this. I mean, the sales rollouts really started in the 80s, and it's pretty similar today. So let's transition. What do you think is more relevant for today, or what's needed? If you could design a more relevant solution, what's needed?
yeah. Just in time enablement,
Hmm.
in the deal, in the moment enablement, that they don't have to go elsewhere, that they could be on the move when they have these micro learnings. An example would be you're having a recorded call, it's being recorded. The customer or the prospect is talking about their fears or even their needs are, and what's popping up on the side of the screen, reinforcement of things that the rep can use, real live data perhaps, case study information. That's happening right when it's happening, not afterwards, not something that they have to study and remember. So it's like really methodology that's in the moment and in the
Yep.
deals.
So
Um,
yeah, I'm sorry, connected to that, and this is where our conversation wandered into. So you talk about just in time, which I think is awesome, and I agree with it. Another kind of accepted practice and a huge frustration is that, maybe we announce the methodology at SKO and then there's a spike, like you said, and then nothing happens. I've found a ton of frustration lately with leaders talking about sales strategy, and the fact that like what happens in a PowerPoint at the management team level isn't translating to the deal level. And sales strategy is a broad statement. So for this question, I'm talking about goals and initiatives that leaders have that fall upon salespeople to execute in the field. So not every aspect of strategy, right, needs to be connected to reps and deals, but it could be, hey, we want to multi-thread, we're pushing a new product, we're pushing a new solution, or commercial terms, focus and shifts. So there, there is an issue with making this. Jim Dickey, one of my mentors and friends, uh, former founder of CSO Insight, said to me once, at SKO, we announce a new product over the weekend, and then on Monday, the reps go back and sell the old product they were selling on Friday, and the customers are buying it. That's kind of it, almost accepted practice, but also a huge frustration with leaders now. What do you think drives that disconnect between here's what the leaders want us doing and here's what reps are actually doing?
yeah, you hit on it already. Leaders and C suites play at the macro level, and they have thoughts, and this is going to be the next best thing at a macro level at SCO, at the Monday morning meeting when everybody's on the call. That has to be broken down in increments at the deal level. What does it
Yes.
look like at the deal level? What does I'll give you maybe a medpic thing about the buying decision cycle in medpic. What does it really mean? We took that and broke it down to you could have a champion, but he might be a champion because he wants it, but it's not a priority for the company. So it's a false champion, right?
Yeah.
Like really giving them ways to break down what does it mean to have a buying, the buying committee and breaking down the buying committee. We took MedPick and made sure that we installed it inside the CRM by level, by highlight of what this looks like. Not only do you have a champion, what is a champion? So there's constantly, it's making sense at the deal level.
Yeah.
Now, that's
Yeah.
not easy to do. It's not easy to do. It's a lot of work. And the problem is we want to go super, super fast to get great results and super, super fast. It takes time for this kind of behavior, especially when you have been practicing go to SCO, everybody's rah rah, you come back and you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
I'm sorry, Robin. You spoke a moment ago about like uh, I maybe we'll use different words because I can't remember yours exactly, but like translating the sales strategy into the deal cycle or deal components. And And this is an interest of mine. I'm talking to a lot of people about this, and there's some easy examples. Like if you've got a new product or a new suite that you want to be selling, it starts with qualifying. Okay, so how do you translate that strategy into actionable things for the reps? And then, as you say, how do you have the just-in-time enablement to get them there? So it's like when you're qualifying somebody, what do the qualifiers look like to sell the new thing versus the old thing? What does a
Yeah.
qualified opportunity look like now? Stakeholder engagement. Who should we be talking to? What new KPIs can we impact with this new thing? What kind of discovery do we need to be doing now to find opportunities to sell the new thing? How does it change our competitive positioning? All the way through to what are we putting in front of the customers? It's actually not too tricky now with available technologies, but I think with folks I've been talking to, like this is a new idea of breaking down strategy into actionable components that track with the deal cycle. How do you make? I just did this with one of our customers the other day. It's literally one step at a time. Okay, if we want this done, how do we qualify? Who do we need to be talking to? But I don't know many folks that are doing it.
Yeah, I think because it's a little bit time consuming in the beginning to break it down, right?
Yes.
And it's like we should have product personas, right? You got buying cycle personas, you got title personas. Who is most likely to buy the product in a
Yeah.
persona perspective? Because then you're getting down to the people that are buying it and the behavior that has to happen. Like even frameworking, in this new product, who's most likely going to a company, you got ICP, but even in the framework, what's the persona of value that this person, who's going to get the most out of this? And it could be that, who's going to love this the most? The CFO, because it saves them this much time, which equals this. So the
Yeah.
CFO is going to be right. It's really understanding where the value sits and making sure that if there's several persona values within it, you're hitting those across with the sales cycle.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting too. Like we've been referring to this as the execution level, right? We have like sales methodology, which I like your idea that it helps reps make better decisions. I would add to that it also helps them guide buyer decisions if it's done properly. But
absolutely.
yeah, this changes the role of reps to one of selling things to executing company strategy, which is kind of cool. You talked about motivating reps. Like we just did some of this work a week ago. Like, hey, this is your job. And when you create that conversation between management and reps about strategy,
Yeah,
there's some pushback. Like we've seen recently some pushback from
sure.
the reps going, hey, you told us we're trying to conserve capital. I need to throw $1 million at this renewal to get them to double the size of their thing. Is that realistic? Because your strategy is conserving capital right now. And what's cool is creating that conversation where reps in bite-sized pieces have access to strategy execution. I'm seeing that they actually really like that role.
Well, yeah, I think it's time for what's next with salespeople, right? I think we've been in this cycle for a very long time, and I think we're also doing a disservice because I think a lot of our sales folks are very smart and want to do the right thing, and they need what's next. They really do need what's next, and the goalpost has to stop changing at the top as well. There's a lot of that going on where one minute you're focusing on this, the next minute you're focusing on that.
But it's funny you say that because that was just in my head. That the other reality I'm hearing from folks is that I had a VP of sales. She said to me that the equivalent of annual planning is now happening quarterly because our value, competitors' value, customer needs, geopolitical stuff, like stuff's changing so quickly. But so I think the reality is we've got to have a system in place to accept real time changes and then just in time get it in front of the rep.
Absolutely. And that means we even need more of that breakdown because change happens so fast that, you could be focusing on one change one month and then the next month we're switching. So in order for the reps to grab what's changing, you need to break it down into what's the value, what's the pieces, feed them exactly what. And I think, enablement is about value proposition, need assessment, also about really, really putting your hat on as the customer, like you're working for the client you're talking to,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
getting deeper than the sale. The example I use is like one of the things that we also developed. I took discovery and broke it into 3 pieces of discovery for MedPIC because I realized just from listening to calls, and it's a really complex sale. So there's the actual technology discovery you have to do. There's the pain point discovery that you have to do. And then where does this pain sit at the CEO level of the client you're talking at,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And what was happening is that they were great at going in and asking the technology questions. What CRM are you on? What tech stack do you have? But they really fell down on a little bit better on pain point because that's pretty obvious. It's the prioritization of where it sits in the company is where we got better.
Yes. Yeah.
We got really better at that because I isolated it as something separate. Because I'm like, listen, guys, there's 3 things I want you to do really great. And even had different questions and different things that they could assess at the time of discovery on all 3 of those. Instead of
Yeah.
one big discovery, it's breaking them down to micro things that have to be identified.
Yes, I completely agree, and I feel like for enablement and revenue leads, the job or the focus has been, how do we sell, and I would say it's now how do we sell in alignment with strategy, especially when that strategy is shifting, and I believe there's kind of a lack of focus on that, and again we're pulling levers that we've maybe always pulled. And the world is different. We could this could be we could spend a good hour on this one
Oh gosh, yeah.
easily, but yeah, I love teeing it up, and I love you been super generous with your time and your ideas prepping for this. And I thank you. I think about closed mode as kind of a body of knowledge for those of us who do the work.
Sure.
And I would encourage anyone, to go to closedmode.media and look for a subject you're wrestling with and find your peers who are talking
Yeah.
about how do you align these various functions into systems, or where's enablement going. This is we try to make this really tangible stuff, and you've done that today. I super appreciate your time and your energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You have a great day. And I looked at Chloe today and it was awesome. I'm like,
Thank
I
you.
subscribed immediately.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we